Alright guys, we have the latest update to HAIKYU Fly High, so we have the new Select Recruit banner, which we already know in advance because of the announcement, and we know the characters inside, it's going to be Yaku, Shirabu, and also Ohira. Now, in terms of which one you want to pick, I already created a video for it a couple days ago, so I'll link that in the video comment section, and you guys can just check it out, and basically pick the one which is best suited for your situation. Now, today I am actually going to talk about the memory instead because I haven't actually talked about this yet. So obviously all three characters come with their own memory. So I'm going to talk about whether they're good or not, whether they're universal, and whether you should be pulling for them. So let's start off with the first one, which is going to be for Yaku. So this one, when you receive, you are going to increase your receive stat by 2%. At the highest level, it's going to be 4%, okay? And then furthermore, when you have a perfect receive, you're able to increase your next power spike 32% at the highest level, 16% at base level. So there are two things to know. First of all, the receive itself is not very high, okay? This basic receive stat is not very high, it's only 2%. Yes, it can be stacked, but it takes a while for you to actually stack it up, so it's not the best thing if you just want to go for raw stats. Then the second ability, first of all, is conditional only when you have a perfect receive. Now, if you do decide to play Yaku himself, because he can turn off the normal to perfect receive, that's actually fairly easy to trigger for him. But for other characters, this is not going to be always the case. So do bear that in mind. And then also, it increases your son's next quick spike power. So obviously, this already show you this is memory is mainly going to be used if you actually want to do a quick spiking team. Outside the quick spiking team, this really doesn't offer too much. Now, obviously, Yaku already have that natural synergy with quick spiking buffs, so you can definitely put this on Yaku, and it's not a bad one for Yaku. But just do bear in mind, right now the meta is still very much power attackers, right? A vast majority of our strong spikers are going to be the likes of Tanaka or Iwaza Yumi or Yushijima, and even the next UR is very likely going to be Bokuto as well. So the meta is going to be very much power spike for a long time until the Mia tweets and also Kageyama UR comes out, etc. So if you are going to summon for this, it'll be more like preparing yourself for the future. But as of right now, there are actually going to be better choices for this. Even though there are only 2 SSR memory and it's going to be quite hard for you to get another one, you can probably get by just using an SR memory because the raw stats is not going to be that different. Because this effect, to be honest, if you're not able to activate the second half, the first half is really basic. So that's kind of why I wouldn't summon it just for the fact that it's an SSR liberal memory, okay? So there's that one. And then the next one we have Shirabu. Now this one increased set stat by 8%, which is nice. And then you also, whenever you perform a critical set, you are able to increase the strength of your sword spike by 16%. Okay, but this is only for power spike. Now the meta right now, like I said, is very much power spike focused, so you can definitely get some good use out of that. If you actually look at the trigger condition for this, you have to be do a critical set. And also you increase the strength. Strength is basically the crit damage. So basically when you actually want to activate this, it kind of require both yourself and also whoever you're spiking to both crit. And that is going to be very much dependent on what type of team you're going to play on. If you have the likes of, let's say, Orikawa, who is able to increase the crit rate for your whole team, then yes, fine, it's going to be fairly easy for yourself to crit and also for the next spiker to crit. And likewise, if you actually just play Shirabu, who buff crit rate just for himself, and then let's say your spiker is someone like Yushijima, who once again have a built-in high awareness and high crit rate, and then as a result, yes, you can also do this because both yourself, the setter, and the spiker are very much likely to crit, and therefore you can actually activate this. And this buff is actually pretty decent, okay? This is 16% at base level and 32% at the highest level, right? So as long as you can make sure both your setter and your spiker are likely to crit, this is actually a pretty nice effect. Now, you may even consider to use this instead of the Orikawa UR one, because if we take a look, the Orikawa UR one, as good as it is, this buff the surfing stat. And I know some people like to think, the surfing stat, you'll probably only use it once or twice each match, and therefore you actually want to focus on more of a set build, which is absolutely fine if you want to build or cover that way. And then if that's the case, then obviously the Shirabu's one, because it actually improves your set stat, and then the trigger condition is quite easy to fulfill on an all color based team or a critical rate based team. Then this as this is actually a pretty decent choice for Ohikawa as well, if you do actually want to do a set build rather than a surf build, okay? So you can think of this as a budget alternative option for Ohikawa, or Shirabu himself if you do end up getting him. Okay, now we have the last memory here, which is going to be the one for Ohira. So this one's actually pretty basic description. So whenever you cast a skill, you're able to increase your awareness by 1.6% and also reflex by 1.6%. So remember, awareness is your crit rate for offensive action. So your surf, your set, your spike, and the reflex is going to be your defensive action. So your receive, your block, your save, etc. Now, crit rate is always massive in this game because it's probability based. So the higher you're able to get it, it's going to be a lot more consistent as you perform in the matches. So that's kind of why I always give a higher priority to crit rate, crit rate over any kind of other stats. So this one is definitely a very good memory from that perspective. You are able to stack it up to 5 times as well. So basically means that at the highest level it's 8% for both awareness and also reflex. And if you are actually willing to max dupe it, then that doubles. So you can basically get up to 16% crit rate for both attack and also defense. And with that, it's actually pretty massive, like especially if you compare that to a lot of the characters, their own passive skills, etc. This is actually higher than a lot of passive skill, and this is for both awareness and also reflex at the same time. So this is definitely very, very strong when you're at the highest dupe. However, I do feel like it's pretty dupe reliant because at the lowest level, 8% versus 16%, there's actually quite a big difference, especially when we're talking about both awareness and also reflex jump. So there's actually quite a big jump between 0 dupe to 5 dupe. So this is more of, like, say, a pay to win option for those of you guys who are actually willing to put loads of resources in. If you are not actually willing to put those resources and only at 0 dupe, then yes, it's still going to make a difference, but it's probably not going to have that as big an impact or as big consistency as you would hope, because it's just going to be an 8% difference, okay? Now, the other thing I also want to mention here is that you are able to stack this up whenever you cast a skill. So in order for you to actually stack up this quickly, you ideally want a character with lots of skills that you can actually activate. And also, if you actually look at this, it increases both of your offensive crit rate and also defensive crit rate. So it's more suited for those all-rounded win spike. So Ohira is obviously going to be a very good option. So he does have both receive skills, which will activate or use his reflex stat, and also his spiking moves, which would then use his awareness. And because he has 2 different types of skills, it's going to be quite easy for him to stack it up. So this is definitely going to be a very, very good option for Ohira himself. But the other option, which is also going to be very good for this memory, and I know a lot of people are probably thinking about that, it's going to be Hoshiyumi, because he is probably going to be the #1 character that everyone's going to get. Hoshiyumi actually appreciate this memory a lot, okay? Because Hoshiyumi, first of all, has both a block skill, a receive skill, and also a spike skill. So it's actually going to be very, very easy for him to actually max stack of this reflex and also awareness rate. And also, if you can actually get Hoshiyumi to 6 dupe, he is actually able to add up his awareness and also reflex that, and actually give back more to both awareness and also reflex. So the fact that this is actually able to, at the highest level, give 16% extra awareness and also 16% reflex, that's going to mean even more once you actually factor in your Hoshiyumi 6 dupe ability. So this is actually going to be very, very nice memory for Hoshiyumi himself. Now, if you do actually want to compare it to the UR memory for Hoshiyumi, which is also a very good universal one, I'll probably say at the highest dupe, this one's probably a bit nicer than a 0 dupe UR memory, purely because the awareness and reflex stats are probably the more important stats than the UR memory is able to provide. Hoshiyumi's UR memory basically give buff to the base attack and also defense technique, so it doesn't do anything with crit base. However, you're able to get a bit higher in terms of your base stats. So this is obviously, in my opinion, if you can actually max dupe it, it's going to be actually better than 0 dupe UR memory. But obviously, 0 dupe UR memory is actually going to be cheaper for you to summon for than, let's say, 5 dupes of this memory. So it's going to be up to you which option you want to go down. But I just want to point out this is actually going to be a very, very good memory for Hoshiyumi in the future as well, okay?